Hello everyone, welcome to Barca News. It is October 7th, 2023, and it's reported that Xavi Hernandez has reached a personal agreement with Spain's coach Luis de la Fuente in regards to Lamine Yamal. Also, it's reported that Barcelona have made Vitor Roque's arrival in the winter transfer market their number one priority. And finally, Manu Sainz from AS Media Outlet is reporting that Atletico Madrid are planning to ask for 80 million euros for Joao Felix. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and before we begin with the news, just a quick reminder to make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way in helping this channel continue to grow. Also, if you are looking to place any sports bet on Barcelona matches or on any sporting event all around the world, make sure to hit the Bet Us, where they're currently having a special offer for all new signups. And if you are looking to buy any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure you hit the kickback. Both links are down below in the description. Now I'll begin with the news that Barcelona are set to play the 9th match of this La Liga season tomorrow, Sunday, October the 8th, against Granada in an away match, and the club have officially released the squad list for tomorrow's match, and this list includes Marc Ter Stegen, Joao Cancelo, Alejandro Valde, Ronald Araujo, Íñigo Martínez, Gavi, Ferran Torres, Iñaki Peña, Joao Felix, Andreas Christensen, Marcos Alonso, Oriol Romeo, Sergi Roberto, Ilkay Gundogan, Koundé, Astralaga, Lamine Yamal, Fermin Lopez, Pau Victor, and Marc Guiu. Now, Barcelona are still without three other key players, which are Frenkie de Jong, Pedri, and Robert Lewandowski, who are still injured. And this list includes both Pau Victor and Marc Guiu, who have been called up to the first team for the first time in their careers. Now, Xavi Hernandez gave the pre-match press conference today where he discussed several topics, and one of these topics was about what he expects in tomorrow's match against Granada. And in regards to that, Xavi Hernandez said, "There are important absentees, but we are doing well, with a good feeling after hard-earned victories. We're up against the most physical opponent in the league, with great offensive potential. And it's true that they suffer in defense. It's always difficult to beat Paco Lopez's teams." Now, Xavi Hernandez giving us a preview of tomorrow's match, because even though it is Granada and a lot of people might think that this will be an easy match, it's going to be far away from that. It's going to be a very difficult match for Barcelona, where Granada will look to cause some damage while at the same time keeping a compact defense in order to stop Barcelona. And of course, as Xavi Hernandez did highlight, the team will have some important absentees, which are the injured three players, which I already mentioned. And in regards to these injured players, Xavi Hernandez was asked whether Barcelona currently have a problem with injuries. And in regards to that, Xavi Hernandez said, "We don't have an injury scourge, but the squad is smaller rather than longer, and it feels like it. We hope to get people back for the next game. The important thing is that they recover well." Now, Xavi Hernandez is making a very important point, which I do want to highlight, because this is something I touched on in yesterday's video, which is that it might seem that Barcelona have a big problem with injuries, but that's not the case. The problem is that Barcelona do have a smaller squad this season, the smallest squad in several seasons, where Barcelona only have 23 first-team players. So it might seem that Barcelona have an injury problem, but that's not the case. And in fact, I've been seeing a lot of people comment on my videos saying that Barcelona are not good about protecting their players or making sure that their players don't get injured. But that is not the case at all, because even though Barcelona only have 3 injured players, 2 of these injuries are due to fouls by the opposing teams, which are, of course, Frenkie de Jong and Robert Lewandowski, who suffered tackles that end up injuring them. So technically speaking, we only have 1 injured player who has suffered muscle injury, and this is no clear indication or any indication of at all that Barcelona have an injury problem. If that was the case, we would have more than 3 injured players, and all these players would be suffering from muscle problems rather than ankle problems that are caused by tackles by the opposing team. Now, Xavi Hernandez was asked in regards to Fermin Lopez and his role in the team now that there are several injured players in the first team. And Xavi Hernandez said, "I've said it several times. I like the way he uses 2 legs, how he shoots from outside the box. He's aggressive, intense. He wins a lot of duels. If he continues like this, he'll get a lot of minutes. Now, Xavi Hernandez making it very clear that he's very impressed with Fermin Lopez, and of course, he's not alone in this conclusion. We've all seen what the youngster can do with the first team, despite this being his first season with the first team. So I too think that Fermin Lopez is doing great, and I'm sure that if he keeps doing a good job, he will get more playing time. Now, speaking of Fermin Lopez, there have been some reports stating that Xavi Hernandez could end up using him as a false nine, which could be an interesting position for Fermin Lopez, because we have seen that he can score goals and he can come from behind and make those successful runs to the box. So that would be definitely an interesting to see with Fermin Lopez. But of course, as I reported in yesterday's video, Xavi Hernandez is also considering both Joao Felix and Ferran Torres for that position. Now, Xavi Hernandez was asked about Frenkie de Jong's role in the team and about Gabi and Joao Felix's recent interviews, where they said that Frenkie de Jong is the player that has surprised them the most. And in regards to this, Xavi Hernandez said, "At Barca, everything is always undervalued. A player who's an 8 is a 6. That's why we try to give the players confidence. Frenkie is one of the best midfielders in the world, and that's why some people are surprised by the criticism. It's Barca, my friend. That's how it works." Now, I do have to agree with Xavi Hernandez here, because I really do think that Barcelona fans tend to undervalue the performance of the team, of the coach, and even of the players. And in fact, this is something that I see on a daily basis in the comments on my videos, where players are constantly being undervalued by their performance. And God forbid one player has one bad performance, because all of a sudden, all of Barcelona fans are now saying that that player should be offloaded, or that should be sold, and that player is not good enough. So I definitely do agree with Xavi Hernandez with statements, but I do like to hear from you. Do you think Barcelona fans tend to undervalue the performance of the players? Let me know down below in the comment. And speaking of undervaluing the performance of players, there's been a lot of criticism directed at Oriol Romeu after his performance against FC Porto, where he didn't have a really good match. And I really strongly believe that this has been a misdirected criticism, because Oriol Romeu has been great so far, and he in fact has played around 11 matches for Barcelona this season, or maybe 10 matches for Barcelona this season, and he's only had one, maybe two bad matches. But I'm already seeing plenty of fans saying that Oriol Romeu is not good enough, despite him being excellent in other matches. And let's not forget that Frenkie de Jong is currently having the best form ever since he arrived in Barcelona, and all of that is thanks to Oriol Romeu, who has completely unlocked Frenkie de Jong's skills, where Frenkie de Jong is performing much better than when he played right next to Sergio Busquets, because Frenkie de Jong is now more free, or he's left to roam more freely, because he knows that he has an absolute of a beast in that defensive midfield position, whose name is Oriol Romeu. Now, speaking of Oriol Romeu, Xavi had to address this unfair criticism that the player has been receiving, and in regards to that, he said, "He was at the level of the team the other day. We were not good, but he is a guarantee. I'm delighted with him. He's an extraordinary signing. He gives us a lot of things, defensive security, and he's good in attack." Now, I have to agree with Xavi Hernandez 100%, because Oriol Romeu undoubtedly gives the team a lot of defensive security. And even though a lot of people say that Oriol Romeu is not good offensively, I really think that they are mistaken, because we have seen plenty of passes and even some assists by Oriol Romeu, where he has shown that he truly is a pivot that has been formed in La Masia, because after all, Oriol Romeu spent 12 years in La Masia, where Barcelona formed him to be a Barcelona kind of pivot, and he was supposed to be Sergio Busquets' replacement and someone to rotate with Sergio Busquets. But unfortunately, the arrival of Mascherano ended up seeing Oriol Romeu leave to Chelsea, and once he was outside of Barcelona, he had to adapt his game, where he became more of a defensive midfielder, someone who is very aggressive defensively, but not so much creative in the offense. But of course, the 12 years in La Masia does not mean that Oriol Romeu has forgotten on how to provide assists or how to distribute the ball. And we have seen some flashes of that in previous matches. And of course, I'm sure as time progresses, then we will see Oriol Romeu become a more offensive pivot, because after all, he has spent many, many years in other clubs having only to play as a defensive midfielder. So I have no doubt that eventually we will see a more offensive Oriol Romeu, but that will take time, because after all, Oriol Romeu just arrived in the club. But yet, that hasn't stopped the Barcelona fans from criticizing the player, despite him having an excellent season so far. And speaking of Xavi Hernandez, it's reported that the coach has an agreement with Spain's coach Luis de la Fuente in regards to Lamine Yamal. Now, it's reported that Xavi Hernandez has a very good relationship with Luis de la Fuente, where Luis de la Fuente was Xavi's teacher in that academy course for coaches that the Royal Spanish Football Federation offers, which Xavi Hernandez enrolled in before he became the Qatari side's coach, Al Sadd. And it's reported that Xavi Hernandez continuously has conversations with Luis de la Fuente where they discuss the players and who's going to be called up and what kind of plan Luis de la Fuente has for those players. Now, it's reported that one of these players that has been discussed very thoroughly between Xavi Hernandez and Luis de la Fuente is Lamine Yamal, because Luis de la Fuente, like Xavi Hernandez, thinks that Lamine Yamal is an incredibly talented player who will become one of the best players in the world. And just like Xavi Hernandez, Luis de la Fuente understands the importance of protecting Lamine Yamal while at the same time giving him enough minutes so he can continue growing and development, but of course without crossing that line and making it into an extremely overburdened or a stressful situation for the player that can eventually hinder his development, because given that Lamine Yamal's young age of 16 years old, this is a very, very thin line. And I'm very glad that Luis de la Fuente is in agreement with Xavi Hernandez, where he wants to give Lamine Yamal minutes to help him grow and develop, but at the same time protect him in order to make sure that his development continues and we can all eventually see Lamine Yamal become the incredible player that we all know he can become. Now, speaking of young talented players, it's reported that Barcelona have now made their #1 priority for the winter transfer market, the arrival of Vitor Roque. Now, as I reported previously, Deco is planning to fly to Brazil in order to meet with Atletico Paranaense to supervise the recovery of Vitor Roque, who's currently recovering from an ankle injury that will see him sidelined for 3 months. And Deco is also planning to meet with Vitor Roque and his entourage in order to assure them that Barcelona will do everything in their power to bring Vitor Roque during the winter transfer market. Because as you have seen, Barcelona are in desperate need for a substitute for Robert Lewandowski. And of course, Vitor Roque will also become the future center forward once Robert Lewandowski leaves the club, because after all, Lewandowski is 34 years old. Now, Barcelona have now made Vitor Roque's arrival their #1 priority, and the club are working hard to making sure they're able to register the contract of the player. And as I reported in yesterday's video, Barcelona are now considering terminating the contract or the agreement with the German investment fund Libero, who have yet to make that payment for Barca Studios. So Barcelona have already begun work on a new investor so they can sell that portion of Barca Studios too, and then use that money for the registration of the contract of Vitor Roque. Now, it's reported that Barcelona are also examining other ways to increase their revenue that would help them register the contract of the Brazilian wonder kid. And one of these options is that Barcelona could play a friendly match towards the end of the year so they can generate more income. And the dates have not been set, but there's talks about Barcelona considering a friendly match somewhere in December, because there's a couple of weeks in that month where Barcelona are not gonna play any matches. Now, speaking of signing players, the reporter Manu Sainz from the media outlet AS has reported that Atletico Madrid are now planning to ask for 80 million euros for Joao Felix. Now, Barcelona were able to sign Joao Felix on a free transfer where the player agreed to a significant reduction of salary from 60 million euros to 400,000 euros. And of course, a part of this was the fact that Joao Felix insisted that he only wanted to play for Barcelona. And it's now reported that Atletico Madrid want to ask for 80 million euros when Barcelona try to sign him on a permanent basis for next month. Now, I'm here to tell you there's absolutely no plans for Barcelona to pay 80 million euros for Joao Felix. First of all, Barcelona are not in any financial condition to make that big of a payment for Joao Felix. And even if they were in a condition to pay 80 million euros, Barcelona are not planning to pay that much, because the days of spending huge amounts of money on a player are over, because we all know what kind of financial damage did during the Bartomeu years to play such an incredible amounts of money to sign new players. Now, another reason why I believe that Barcelona are not going to end up paying 80 million euros for Joao Felix, because as I've said in a previous videos, even though it might seem that Atletico Madrid have all the power of bargaining here, they don't. because after all, they don't want Joao Felix on their squad, and Joao Felix does not want to play in Atletico Madrid, so it might seem like they have all the power to demand whatever price for the Portuguese player. But if Barcelona say no to the 80 million euros, then Atletico Madrid would be stuck with a player that they don't want, and if the player does not want to be there, so they're gonna have to reduce the asking price, because again, they don't want Joao Felix, so they can't just ask for any price as they want. Now, Atletico Madrid could end up trying to sell Joao Felix to another club who is willing to pay 80 million euros, but if the player insists on only going to Barcelona, that would again force Atletico Madrid to reduce their asking price, because in today's modern football, players get to play wherever they want, especially when they put their foot down. So don't worry, even though these reports saying that Atletico Madrid want 80 million euros, I highly doubt that that's what Barcelona will end up paying. So that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give me a like. Also, I would like to invite all of you to please leave a comment down below, giving me all your thoughts and opinions about all the news that I share with you. And finally, I would like to invite all of you to please subscribe to the channel so you can stay current on all the latest news in regards to our beloved club, FC Barcelona. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video. And as always, Visca Barça.